Let's talk about your test review for tomorrow. Okay, it's 10 questions. 10 questions.
10.
The test is 10 questions.
Wait,
The
test tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was on.
What you need to know, you guys need to know the arithmetic and the geometric formula. Okay, we need to know that D is the common difference, what's added and subtracted every time. Remember, this is a linear function. R here is your common ratio. It's what's being multiplied every time. It's an exponential. All right, that's very important information for you guys to know. Now, what I'm going to give to you are these three. But you need to know what they're used for. These are the sum formulas. This is how it's going to look. You need to know that this one is the arithmetic. And that these two down here are geometric. This is the finite one that has a beginning and an end. And this is the infinite one, the one that has no end. All right, so we're going to do different problems from there. But you guys need to know those formulas. You need to know what they're for. And you need to know how to find the number of terms. It's top minus bottom plus 1. Make sure you have a plus there. All right, super important. Now let's work on some of these. I'm not going to go through every single part. Like if I ask you to write the first 3 terms, what are you going to plug in? All right, the first number 13, the second number 14, third number 15. What I want to look at right now is finding the sum. The first term of this would be you plug in 13. The second term would be you plug in 14 because it tells you to start with that. Now, looking at this, guys, this is a sum formula. It's got the sigma notation. How do you know if it's arithmetic or if it's geometric? If there's a power, if there's an exponent. Is there an exponent in this expression? No, that's written in y equals mx plus b. This is an arithmetic, so you need to know which formula to use. So since it's arithmetic, we know which formula we're going to use. S sub n equals n over 2 times the first term plus the last term. So we got to figure out n. What is the number of numbers I'm talking about? How do you figure that out? Top minus bottom plus 1. What's the total number of numbers I'm talking about? 60 minus 13 plus 1. 48, okay. The first term, that's not where you plug in 1. What do we plug in to find the first term? 13. So I have negative 3 times 13 minus 17. Negative 39 minus 17 is what? Negative 56? Okay. And then the last term. How do you figure out what the last term is? Plug in 60. All right, so negative 3 times 60 minus 17. Negative 120 minus 17 is what? Negative 197. So there's the information you need to plug into this formula. You have 48 over 2 times negative 56 plus negative 197. So 48 divided by 2 is going to give me 24. What's negative 56 and negative 197 when you add them together? Negative 254. Then when you multiply negative 254 and 24, what do you get? 6096. Perfect. Now, read the directions. On it, it'll say decimals or fractions are okay. It might say no decimal answers. Just whatever the directions say, you've got to follow. All right, so this next question. Find A sub n, right? A 47 and A sub n given this information. What did they tell you that is important? It's an arithmetic. That means I'm using this formula. Now, I don't know the first term, and I don't know the common difference, but I can find it. Because this is an arithmetic, this is a linear function. When we think of linear, we think of slope. Did they give me 2 points that I could use to find the slope? Yes, they gave me that the 12th term is 13, and they gave me that the 18th term is 31. So 31 minus 13 over 18 minus 12. What's 31 minus 13? 18. divided by 6 is 3. So your common difference is positive 3. Now we use this formula to find our first term. We can use either piece of information that they gave us. We can use the 12th term, or you can use the 18th term. It does not matter. So I'm going to use the 12th term just because it's closer to 1. So I have 13 equals a sub 1. I don't know what it is. Which term number is 13? So 12 minus 1 times the common difference, which is 3. So I have 13 equals a sub 1. I don't know what it is, but what's 12 minus 1? 11 times 3 is plus 33. So now I subtract 33 from both sides. What is my first term? What's my first term? Negative 20. Perfect. So to write the rule, do you have the two pieces of information you need? Yes. So my a sub n equals my first term, negative 20, plus n minus 1 times my common difference of 3. Guys, don't leave your answer like this. That is not how I want the rule written. I want it written in y equals mx plus b. So this is a sub n equals, when I distribute here, I have negative 20 plus 3n minus 3. So what is your rule? 3n minus 23. Now let's just check to make sure this is right before I find the 47th term. If I plug in 12 for my n, what should I get out as my answer? 13. Okay, so what's 3 times 12? 36 minus 23 is 13. So I know I'm right. So now if you're going to find the 47th term, you just plug in 47. So what do you get? What's 3 times 47? 131? 141? 141 minus 23. What's the 47th term? 118? All right, there you go. So you're going to have a little bit of arithmetic. If it says, find here, given this formula, find the term, just plug in whatever number they tell you to plug in. Calculator stuff. Now, if this right here, if given the sequence is geometric, why is it important when they tell you the word geometric or arithmetic? Because you know if it's going to be adding or subtracting, or if you know if it's going to be multiplying. This should multiply to get from one to the next. How would you figure out? Some of you can just look at it, but some of you are like, oh, I don't know if the sign, whatever. Take any of the terms. I'm going to take 36 and divide it by the one in front. What's 36 divided by negative 12? Negative 3. So your common ratio is negative 3. Guys, notice if the signs alternate, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, the next one will be negative. It has to be a negative number that you're multiplying by. So just pay attention to that. All right, write the first 5 terms. I'm not going to write them all out, but we're going to write the rule. This is geometric, meaning a sub n equals first term times your common ratio to the n minus 1. My first term is what? 3. What's your common ratio? 1/5. And I raise that to the n minus 1. So now if you're going to find the first 3 terms, what do you plug in for n? 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. If I asked you for the first 27, plug in 1 through 27, right? Okay. All right. A sub 1 is 7, and my r is negative 2. So I have what I need. My rule would be 7 times negative 2 to the n minus 1. There's your rule. If I want to find the 4th term, where do I plug in 4? Where? For the n. So it'd be 7, negative 2 to the 4 minus 1. Guys, when you simplify, this is 7 times negative 2 to the 3rd power. What do you do first? You power. So negative 2 to the 3rd power is negative 8. Times 7 is negative 56. You have to do the power first. You cannot multiply 2 times negative 4 and then raise that to the 3rd power. You will not get the same answer. Got to use your order of operations. All right, so here they gave me a sequence of numbers. God bless. They told me this was what kind of a sequence? Geometric. That means you're going to do what to get from one to the next? Multiply. So if I have to write the rule, I can identify a couple things. I know my first term is what? 6. And how did I get from 6 to 12 to 24 to 48? I times it by 2. Again, if you don't just see that, take any of the terms, 48, divide it by 24, divide it by the one in front of it, and it'll tell you. So your rule here would be a sub n, equals first term of 6 times 2 to the n minus 1. And then if they ask you for the 974th term, you plug in 974 where? For the n. Okay, good. All right, look at this one, number 7. What kind of a sequence is this? It's arithmetic. Just by looking at it, you can tell. It's written in slope-intercept form, but what does it not have? Doesn't have an exponent. What is this one? This is geometric because it does have an exponent. Good. All right, just make sure you guys see that. All right, sum. They asked for the sum of geometric. They ask you for the sum of the geometric. Find the sum of the first 13 terms. Sum of the first 13. Which formula would you guys use in this case? I understand why you would say infinite, because it's got the dot, dot, dot. But what is this telling you? You're starting at what? No. You're starting at what term number? But what term number is that? This is the first term, and where do they want you to stop? At the 13th. So this would be a finite, the way that it's written. I didn't write one like that on the test to be tricky, but this would be finite. But which formula do you use for finite? S sub n equals, what is it? A1, which is the first term, right? 1 minus r to the n, all over 1 minus r. Agreed? So let's figure out. We don't have to work all this out. I just want to make sure you guys got it. What is the first term? Can you tell? Yeah, it says 5. So I'm going to put a 5 here. Then I have 1 minus. What is my r? How did I get from 5 to negative 15 to 45 to negative 3? So this is 1 minus negative 3. Everybody with me? Now, what am I raising negative 3 to? The 13th. Well, how did you get 13? Because they told you the 13th power. Guys, this is going to give you something crazy in your calculator. If the directions say no decimals, you're going to have to use your calculator and simplify. In this case, it would be 5 times 1 minus, what is negative 3 to the 13th power? Got to do that in your calculator. Negative 3 to the 13th power is what? Like that, right? Agreed, guys? So this would really be plus. Correct? So 1, 5, 9, 4, 3, 2, 3. And on the bottom here, do you guys agree I have a 4? Okay. So this is 5 times 1, 5, 9, 4, 3, 2, 4 over 4. If you plug all that in your calculator, you may not get something pretty. You might. If you do, great. If you don't, you have to simplify. So if you multiply 5 times that number, what do you get? 1615 over 4. If you divide that out, is it pretty? 7971615 divided by 4. What is it? 1992903.75. Okay, now if it says decimals are okay, I'm fine with that because that's a terminating decimal. If it says no decimals, then you need to leave it like this. You guys understand? Okay, follow the directions. If it says no decimals, whether it terminates or not, don't give me a decimal. All right, what about this one? Is this, look, geometric or arithmetic? Geometric or arithmetic? Why is it geometric? because it's got an exponent. Good. Is this finite or is it infinite? Why is it finite? Because there's a beginning and a what? And an end. So it's first term, 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. All right, I'm not going to work this whole one out, but I'm just going to show you. How would you figure out, guys, what the first term is? What are you plugging in? 4. So it would be 2 times 4 to the 4th. What's 4 to the 4th power? 256 times 2. So you'd have 512. And then 1 minus r. Well, what's your r? What's the common ratio? It is 4. Good. So on the bottom here I have 1 minus 4. Now, how do you figure out what the n is? Top minus bottom plus 1. So what's 15 minus 4? 11 plus 1 is 12. So again, you would work this out. Simplify where you can. What do you evaluate first in this whole big mess? 4 to the 12.
How did you find 4?
It's this right here. All right, you worked that out. God bless. God bless. All right, look at this next one. First of all, it says sum, so I know I'm going to use one of those sum formulas. I see a dot, 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 which is an indication, but what else is it telling you? It says geometric, and it also says what? Infinite. So which formula do we use for the infinite one? A sub 1 equals, A sub 1 over 1 minus r. This one's a lot easier to work with. What is the first term here? 48 over 1 minus. Well, how did you get from 48 to 12 to 3 to... You guys can tell me, well, you divided by what? How'd you get from 48 to 12 to 3 to 3/4? What'd you divide by? 4. But we don't talk about dividing by. Remember, take a term. So take 12 and divide it by the one in front of it. What would this simplify to? 1 over 4. Good. If you are going down, you need to understand that you are multiplying by a fraction. So in this case, guys, I'm going to rewrite 1 as 4s. How many fourths is 1 whole? 4 over 4. So as you simplify this, you have 48 in the numerator divided by 3/4. How do you divide fractions? You keep, change, and this becomes what? 4 over 3? And now we simplify. Does 3 go into 48? 16 times, right? What's 16 times 4? 64? So there's your answer. All right, what is important here? What's important that they told you in this problem? Geometric. All right, so I know geometric. I know it's this one. It's the first term times the common ratio to the n minus 1, all right? Do we know what the common ratio is? No. Do we know what the first term is? No. In this case, since it's geometric, are we dealing with a slope that's constant, that's the same between... No. This is an exponential function. So this is the one where you got to do a little extra work. The first thing you're going to do is find r. Take whichever you would like to in the second part of this, but you have to take what's given to you right now. Which term is closer to 0 or to 1? 3, right? The third term. So I'm going to say the third term is 5 equals, I don't know what the first term is. Actually, no. Let's do it this way. That's a way we can do it, but I'm going to do it a different way. Hang on. Do you guys remember how we did this in our notes? Which one's further away? The 8th, right? So I'm going to say, I'm going to put the 8th term over here, and then I'm going to put the third term here. And then how far away is 8 and 3? 8 minus 3. That's how we're going to find our r. I was going to do it a different way, but that's not how I did it in your notes. You always put the one that's furthest away, put it on the other side of the equal sign. So now we're just going to fill in what we know. I know that I have 1 over 625 equals the third term of 5 times r to the what power? What's 8 minus 3? 5, right? How do you get r by itself? We're going to divide by 5. So if I'm going to multiply fractions, I have to do what? So keep, change, flip. What's 625 times 5? 1125? Or 1025? 3, 1, 2, 5. Oh, 3, 1, sorry. So 3, 1, 2, 5. All right. I don't want r to the 5th power. I want r to the 1st. So I'm going to take the what? Take the 5th root. So what you guys are figuring out is you figure out in your calculator the 5th root of 3125. If you don't know how to do that, just hit 5 times 5 times 5. See how many times you hit 5 to get to 3125. What is it? So there is your common ratio. Your common ratio is 1/5. So now we're going to take this information and we're going to figure out what the first term is. I'm going to use the one that's closer to 0 or 1. So a sub 3 equals a1 times r to the n minus 1. Okay, so the third term is what? 5, correct? Equals, I don't know what the first term is, but I do know my common ratio. How far away is the first term from the third term? Well, 3 minus 1 is what? 2. Okay, so 5 equals a sub 1 times 1/5 squared. Where does that 2 go? It goes to the 1 and to the 5. Now what do? Multiply both sides by what? 25 over 1. Right, these cancel now. So what's your first term? 125. Why I wrote 127, I don't know. 125. So I now know my first term and my common ratio. So you can write your rule. A sub n equals 125 times the common ratio to the n minus 1. Now if they asked you for the 12th term, where would you plug in 12? To the n. Good. That's probably the hardest question that you guys are going to see. Practice a bunch of these. Watch it back in the notes. You can Google these, but you first find the r. You're figuring out the 2 that they give you. How far away are they from each other? All right, now let's talk about these, and then we're done. All right, you're going to have 2 of these. 2 of these, and I'm going to ask you. I'm going to say, show me what you put in your calculator. And then if you want to use your calculator, perfect, but show me what you put. So the formula for this, guys, is n factorial over r factorial times n minus r factorial, correct? Yes? Okay. So factorial, what does that mean? It means I multiply the number that you see and then everything behind it. So your first is always n, your second is always r. So what I need to see from you is 18 factorial over 5 factorial and then 18 minus 5 factorial. That is all you have to show me. If you then do it in your calculator, you're fine. Tomorrow, I will not answer how to do this in your calculator. Where's the PRB button? I'm not answering that question. If you guys don't know where it is and you don't ask me now, then you can do it by hand. So if we did this by hand, I have 18 factorial, 5 factorial, and then 18 minus 5 is 13 factorial, correct? So if we continue to do this by hand, 18 factorial is 18 times 17 times 16 times 15 times 14 times 13. Why can I stop at 13 factorial? Because there's 1 on the bottom. So they cancel. And then you guys can cross cancel, or you could just multiply the top and divide by the bottom.
We have to show all of that.
No, the only thing I need to see is right here in red. That's it. Now, if somebody forgets how to do it in their calculator, then yeah, you're going to have to do all that. But here, 2 goes into 14 7 times, 3 goes into 15 5 times, 4 goes into 16 4 times, right? And then 5 goes into 5. So you're going to multiply 18 times 17 times 4 times 7, which if you do it in your calculator, what do you guys get? 8,568. Okay. Again, this is all I need to see are these two. I'll do 13 and 15 real quick. Say it again. I'll show you in 1 sec, Sam. Okay, so look here. This is my n. This is my r. So this is 17 factorial over 17 factorial times 17 minus 17 factorial. So if you guys do this in your calculator, you'll get the correct answer, but I want you to see why. This is 17 factorial over 17 factorial times 0 factorial. Well, what happens with the 17s? They're going to cancel. And then, guys, anything raised to the 0 power is what number? 1. Well, funny thing is 0 factorial in your calculator is what? Anybody know? 0 factorial equals 1. So all this does is just cancel and equal 1. I'll show you the factorial button. All right, look at this one. This is my n, this is my r. The top number is the n, the bottom number is the r. The first number is the n, the second number is the r. So this is 9 factorial over 0 factorial times 9 minus 0 factorial. All right, so if we simplify this, you do it in your calculator to get the answer right. But if I simplify this, it's 9 factorial over, what did I just tell you 0 factorial was? 1 times, what's 9 minus 0? What happens here, guys? It cancels, it's just 1. Yep. So that's not to be a trick question. That is a definite possibility. All right, then we're going to have some of Pascal and his triangle. Sure. 16? Sure. So we'd have 216 factorial over 211, and then 216 minus 211. So 216 over 211 factorial. What's 216 minus 211? 5? Okay. So you'd have 216 times 215, 214, 213. This is why your calculator's handy. 212. I'm going to stop at 211. You agree with me, Matilda? Okay. So those will cancel. And then you have 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So you can cancel out 215 and 5, 214 and 4, just simplify. Or you, if your calculator will allow, you multiply the whole top, the whole bottom, and then just simplify. That's okay. That's totally okay. All right, Pascal and his triangle. This is what I need you guys to know. I need you to know the third row to the fifth row. I need you to know those numbers. You need to know that if something is raised to the third power, that's what we put in the top. If something is raised to the fourth, it's here, and to the fifth, that is the biggest that will go. So these two are very similar, correct? They each have one term. You just write out the top row, you write out each term, you do your exponents. I'm going to do one that's a little more complicated. You're going to have a basic one like this. Let me do one on the next page, and then if I have to back, let's do an example like what we just did to the fifth power. So let's do this one. Let's raise it to the fourth. All right, we'll do a different row. Here's the rows that you need to know. You need to know the third, raise to the third power, raise the fourth power, raise to the fifth power. You need to know those numbers at the top. So if we're doing the fourth row, what are the numbers at the top? 1, 4, 6, 4, 1, right? So I'm going to write this out. 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. What's the first term? Y. So I'm going to write Y, 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 Y. What's my second term? -3. Now I'm going to put that in parentheses. Why am I putting that in parentheses? Because we got signs. If it's positive, I wouldn't worry about it. But since it's negative, we need to remind ourselves, uh-oh, it's negative. So now how do I write my exponents? So 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Cross that out. Put a 1. My bottom row starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That setup took us less than 30 seconds. And then now I like to go ahead and simplify before I multiply. So I'm going to rewrite this as just negative 3. This is going to be positive 9. This is going to be negative 27. This is going to be positive what, 81? Now you guys have a calculator. What's 1 times 1? 1. Y to the 4th. What's 4 times negative 3? Negative 12. Y to the what? Good. 6 times 9. 54. Y what? Squared. 4 times negative 27. Negative 108. Y what? To the first. Plus 81. What do you notice about the signs? They alternate. Why do they alternate? Because there's a minus sign in the middle. Questions? All right. I'll come back and do that one.
Wait, so do we have to remember them?
Yes.
So you're not giving us anything?
I'm giving you, what do you mean formulas?
Like any,
You need to know those 3 rows for Pascal. You will not have one like 21. All right, let's do one like 20. Raised to the 5th power. What is the first, what do I write at the top for the 5th power? 1, 5, 10, and then it just goes the same thing again. 10, 5, 1. Now I write my first term. What is the first term? X squared. I'm going to write that underneath every single thing. That squared goes inside. That is my first term. I'll do another Pascal's at the end of the video. One of the smaller ones. My second term is what? 2y cubed. Okay, I'm doing this one because it has a variety of everything. So 2y cubed all the way through. All right, what have we done that's been terribly difficult right now? Nothing. All we did was write out what your top coefficients are and then writing out the terms. How do you write your exponents? In what kind of order? First row is descending, so I start with 5 because that's what we're raised to. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. How do I write my exponents on that second term? You're going to go ascending, so start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Some people like to start. Look, if I start right here with 5, you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then just go down, and then you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Like this, go like boop, boop, that way. Now, what did I tell you is the easiest thing to do before you start multiplying? Simplify each little thing. If you have a power raised to a power, guys, what do you do to the exponents? Power raised to a power. You multiply, so this becomes x to the 10th. Cross this off. This becomes what? X to the 8th. Perfect. Cross this off. This becomes x what? X6. Good. This becomes x to the 4th. And this just stays x squared, correct? You guys with me? All right, and then now we do the same thing. You're going to distribute the exponents. This exponent goes here and here. This becomes 2y to the 3rd. This exponent goes here and here. This becomes 4y to the what? 6. This exponent goes here and here. This becomes 8y to the 9th. This exponent goes here and here. This becomes 16y to the 12th. And then this one goes here and here. This becomes 32y to the what? 15. Now, all we do now is just simplify. You're going to multiply down, stick the letters on it. What's 1 times 1? Times x to the 10th is just x to the 10th. Now I have 5 times 2 is what? So 10, and then stick your letters on. X to the 8th, y to the 3rd. Now I have 10 times 4, which is, so 40, x to the 6th, y to the 6th, okay? Then I have 10 times 8, which is, so 80, x to the y to the, there you go. 5 times 16, 80, x to the 2nd, y to the 12th. Then I have 1 times 1 times, so 32y to the 15th. And there's your expansion using Pascal's. If you guys just give yourself enough room, right? Write it out nice and wide, and then give yourself a little bit of time, you'll be fine. There's going to be one like this of Pascal's and then one that's a little more basic. All right.